All right, all praise going on is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of His Son Jesus. I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, in today's lesson, I want to deal with a topic, and actually, I'm going to do a short series on money. One thing about this Bible is the beautiful thing about this Bible, the wonderful thing about it is that it shows us so many aspects of life, and it provides insight and wisdom into so much of human endeavor. Not only can we gain salvation, but we can also use the wisdom that is embedded in the Bible to avoid pitfalls and live more righteous life based on what's written in the Word. So I'm thankful for His Word. And some of these lessons that I embedded here in these words of the book, oftentimes I think, man, if I had only read this and understood this as a child. And so that's another thing. That's another reason why we should impart it into our children, so they don't fall into the same pitfalls, But then again, I'm blessed to know it, and thankful because I have been able to avoid things just by being obedient unto it. And then, it's certain people that have lived their whole lives and never heard the word or never heard these things. And I'm fortunate just to have it, and to obtain it as a young man. So I've been in it almost just under like 20 years or so. So I'm thankful. But that being said, brothers and sisters, I want to, and peace to everybody that's listening. It's good to see you there. I hope you're doing well in these trying times. But the Lord is faithful. So I want to pick it up in Proverbs, the 22nd chapter, because, honestly, just I'm listening to different podcasts and doing some reading just on the American debt. And it just had me thinking about what the Bible had to say about debt in our individual lives. And, it's really something, because the Bible tells you how you should look at debt. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at it and see what the Bible has to say. And one of the first things we need to know and that's not being pushed in American society. Our children aren't being taught this. And even as old adults, we keep making the same mistakes. The Bible tells you need to know your economic situation and not to exacerbate it, especially if it's bad, making it worse by going into debt. This is Proverbs, the 22nd chapter, and I want to pick it up at verse 7. Proverbs, the 22nd chapter and verse 7. Peace to you again. Peace to everybody that's listening. Proverbs 22 and verse 7 says, "The rich ruleth over the poor." Okay, so the rich rule. We know this. It's the saying we say amongst ourselves: the rich get rich and the poor get poor. The rich are in control. The rich, when it comes to politics, the rich can buy the politician. It doesn't matter the party. That's irrelevant. It's about the paper. But nevertheless, so it says the rich ruleth over the poor. And then it says something. It said, and the borrower is servant to the lender. So you shackle yourself when you become when you get in debt. Peace to you, brother Noel. You shackle yourself. You become a servant to the one whom you have. You become in debt. It's not. You think about all these credit card companies that send you these things in the mail. It's not like they want to be your friend. They want to make you their slave, and you keep paying interest. We're gonna talk about interest as well. You keep paying interest to these people, and we sign astronomical amounts of interest. And even when you look at that's on the individual level. When you look at the banks, it's ridiculous. And they pay out these loans that are. You see predatory lending, especially that led up to the 2008 banking crisis, which was the biggest swindle in human history. Estimates of $5 trillion taken. You look at what banking is, and fractional banking. For every $1, you can loan out $9 of somebody else's money. It's all a hustle. But debt, yeah, it makes you a servant to the lender. But let's keep reading in Proverbs 22. And in verse 26, it says, "Be not thou one of them that strike hands or of them that are sureties for debts. If thou hast nothing to pay, why should he take away thy bed from under thee?" And that's what happens. You going into debt and to lose it all, risk it all. Dealing with young people, I talk to them all the time. You even see them that had the same mindset, because the adults had the same mindset. They want to go to school. They want to go to school not because they say, yeah, I want to go to school for this, but ultimately they want to get out of their parents' house and get away. So they're willing to go into tremendous debt. Instead of, well, hold on, is it possible for you to work at home if you don't have a scholarship, to work at home and go to a near branch? I don't want to be at home. I don't want to be, but you're going to end up at home. When you look at the jobs, and then not only that, you're going to end up, I know people, with a tremendous amount of debt. I know, quite a few people with $100,000 in debt. And I look at my father, who went to a major university and worked and paid his way through school and had, when I say a small amount of debt coming out, I mean a smaller amount of debt. Like, I don't even know if it was, it might have been, I don't even know if it was $1,000, but that's not the case today. So you go into debt, mortgaging your future. So you start your life off at negative $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 for a degree that may yield you $35,000, $40,000 if you can find a degree. And people have done the same things. Peace to you, Sister Ruth. Good to see that. You're an adult, you want a house. What's up, Brother Josh? Peace, brother. You want a house, so what do? You go into tremendous debt. You go to a bank and you say, I'm a homeowner. You don't own anything. You paying that. You paying your mortgage, and then you're paying how it's set up. You oftentimes end up paying double from what it's worth. When you look at the materials, what they actually cost, it's all a hustle. And then they let you borrow money you don't have, and then you keep paying and keep paying and keep paying, and something happens, you lose a job or get sick, they come and take. It's not like you get that money back. They take that house back. And you see, mortgage crisis you see these type of things that take place because, and oftentimes the system is set up for us to fail. The system is set up for us to be prey. My father called it, he said Smurfs. Not serfs, Smurfs. Like, that's how I describe it. We Smurfs in the pawn, less than pawns in the game. But that's what happens. And if we realize that, we can avoid some pitfalls and not live beyond our means. When you think about all the debt we have, even in this country, there's $27 trillion in debt. The dollar has very little buying power. And us, what we want to do oftentimes is we want to keep up with the Joneses and buy things that we cannot afford. We are walking around with $1,000 cell phones. I heard, to put this in perspective, and I've just been thinking about this lately. If you go to another country, you want to buy a house. It's not like I just get a loan and they're gonna, and I could just pay on this house. No, you have to have the cash to do it. Otherwise, you don't have, you won't own that house. That's why, when you talk about people, us as a people, I think group economics is so important. Pooling your money together to help build wealth for one another. But that's something else. But, I heard Akon talk about that. He said something to me that made me think. He said, if you don't have 10 times what it costs in the bank, you cannot afford it. If you don't have 10 times what that item costs, whether it be a car, house, whatever it is, in the bank, you cannot afford it. And if we lived like that, we would avoid a lot of these pitfalls economically. So again, he said, if thou hast nothing to pay, why shouldest he take away thy bed from under thee? Because that's what happens. You end up losing. Let's go to Psalms, the 37th chapter, because there's a moral aspect of this as well. We're going to look at that in the Torah as well. But let's look at what the psalmist says. We're going to work our way backwards a little bit. Psalms 37 and verse 21. Psalms 37 and verse 21. Because he says something here. He said, the wicked borroweth and payeth not again. Okay. So what you don't want to do is borrow and not pay back, because you can't. That's not what you want to do. That's not what you want to do. If you can't, I understand certain things happen in life, but a lot of times we're borrowing money based on not on needs, but on desires and wants. And we are a prey to the system. We are prey to the system when we operate like that. We need to be more frugal. We need to save money. We need to, certain things, we just need the basics. You do what you can afford. Look at your situation. I've been called out. I've been called cheap and frugal. I'm not cheap and frugal. I just know my situation. I think I know my situation. And I do the best I can with what I have. People say, "Oh, you cheap." Like certain things. Like I refuse to buy an iPhone. It's not that I can't get an iPhone. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on a phone. I'm just not. It hurts my soul to think about spending $1,000 on a phone. I don't care if it's spread out. Or I would never buy a new car. I have 3 vehicles, all of them paid for. I'm not gonna buy it. I would never buy a new car. I don't care if I'm sitting. This is how serious it is. If I'm sitting on $1 million, then maybe I'll buy a brand new car. Maybe then. I'm not buying a brand new. Why buy a brand new car? Have that note. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't buy trendy clothes. First of all, I'm not buying anything that has the name on. I'm trying to avoid anything that has a name on the front of it. Why would I buy that? Why would I go into debt trying to buy that? I don't have to do that. So what makes us think we have to do that? Going into debt. Even at this time, you see right now, usually at this time, you see people going into debt, trying to get some presents for some relatives and some friends and associates they really don't like. That's what fun. I try to stay away from I hate going to the mall and anyway. I don't even go to the mall. But like I'm saying, like these stores, I try to stay away from where stores are, especially at this time, because people driving crazy. I gotta go here, I gotta here. Put it on a credit card, paying all that interest. And that's one thing about it. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where you can't pay it back. Because he said the wicked don't repay when they borrow. Peace to you, brother Lawson, brother Joseph, and brother Nicodemus. Let's go to Exodus, the 22nd chapter, because it's written in our law pertaining to debt and borrowing. This is Exodus, the 22nd chapter, and I want to pick it up at Brother Willie. What's good? Peace to you, brother. Exodus 22 and verse 25. Because here it says something. It says, if thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as an usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. So that's when you charge an interest. Somebody needs something. Okay, you need $100? Okay, well, cool. I'm gonna give you $100, but when you pay me back, I'm gonna need $115. That's what the bank does. Only they take it to a whole nother level. They borrow your money, charge you interest, and then lend that money out to a bunch of other people. And they don't even have the money. They charge interest on that money they don't even have. Man, I tell you, the whole world is a hustle. But that's what it's saying. You don't want to charge interest. Okay. Let's pick it up another place. Leviticus, the 25th chapter. You don't want to deal with your brother like that. Leviticus, the 25th chapter, and let's pick it up at verse 35. Leviticus 25 and 35. Because here's talking about those of you, it says amongst your brethren that have become poor. It says, and if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, thou though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Okay, so those amongst you, he said, hey man, show some mercy, you know. And it says, take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shit. So again, if he need a place to stay, it needs something, you need to give it to him if you have it. He said, thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. You're not gonna make a profit off of him, off of the poor. And that's what you see amongst our people today. These check cashing places, these different places that they have, these Quicken loans. Not necessarily Quicken loans, but back in the day, I think things have changed maybe a little bit of who they appeal to, but you know, appealing to poor people to get that because they know they're struggling and they're gonna make them a victim and a profit off of them. But the main thing is to know your economic situation and not get in that predicament. I remember my uncle was telling a young man who he makes good money. Well, he's not working anymore, but he did. He's somewhat well off. And he was talking to me. He was telling a young man that the young man didn't have any credit card, didn't have any debt, didn't have anything like that. He had a low apartment, he had a job, he had a car that was paid for. He did everything in cash. Okay, they're in a false church. And him and the deacon in this false church were telling the young man, "What are you doing? You need to get credit cards. You need to do this, you need to do that." I'm like, you know how many people in the world he's ahead of in this country? I tell young people all the time, you can start your life off at zero. You're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game. You know, if he was single, he didn't have a family. He was just, you know, so all he had to do is stack his bread. But why tell him he needs to get this credit? That's not what he needs to do at that, you know, at that time. You know, so let's pick it up in Nehemiah, the 5th chapter, because there's a certain way we're supposed to treat our brother. And here we see an example of where we saw oppression. This is Nehemiah, the 5th chapter. I'm going to pick it up at verse 1. Nehemiah, the 5th chapter, and verse 1. Now, this is the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. In these days, the children of Israel were allowed to go back into the land. I dealt with this somewhat in the 70 weeks of Daniel lesson that I just did. Under the auspices of Cyrus and Darius or Darius and Artaxerxes, they were able to go back and restore and rebuild Jerusalem. And when they went back, let's see what happened. This is Nehemiah, the 5th chapter, and verse 1. It says, and there was a great cry of the people and of their wives against their brethren, the Jews. So they crying against their own brethren. Well, what happened? It says, for there were that said, we, our sons and our daughters are many. Therefore we take up corn for them that we may eat and live. Some also there were that said, we have mortgaged our lands, vineyards, and houses that we might buy corn because of the dearth. That means famine. There were also that said, we have borrowed money for the king's tribute, and that upon our lands and vineyards. Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children, and lo, we bring into bondage our sons and our daughters to be servants. And some of our daughters are brought unto bondage already. Neither is it in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyards. Okay. So now, you know, back in the day, you know, it was like if you got into debt, you would get sold. And not sold like in the sense of a slave, in the sense of what happened in the American sojourn or in the Caribbean as far as slavery, but you would be a slave, and you would be a servant, you would work. Okay, you see that today. People sell their children to work. It was a practice in Haiti that they would sell children to their children because people are trying to survive. That's not a situation you want to be in. Those people, a lot of times, impoverished, born into that. We have to change our mindset. We have a bad mindset when it comes to debt. But it says, now Nehemiah, he heard it, and it says, now verse 6, and I was very angry when I heard their cry and these words. Then I consulted with myself And I rebuked the nobles and the rulers and said unto them, ye exact usury, every one of his brother, and I set a great assembly against them. So he's saying, basically, you exacting usury. He said, and I said unto them, we after our ability have redeemed our brethren the Jews, which were sold unto the heathen. And will ye even sell your brethren, or shall they be sold unto us? Then held they their peace and found nothing to answer. That's your brother. It says, also I said, it is not good that ye do. Ought ye not to walk in the fear of our God because of the reproach of the heathen, our enemies? I likewise, and my brethren and my servants might exact of them money and corn. I pray you, let us leave off this usury. Stop exacting interest. Restore, I pray you, to them even this day their lands, their vineyards, their olive yards, and their houses, also the 100th part of the money, and of the corn, the wine, and the oil, that ye exact of them. Then said they, we will restore. So they were convicted. He said, we will restore them, and we will require nothing of them. So will we do as thou sayest. Then I called the priest and took an oath of them that they should do according to this promise. Also, I shook my lap and said, like when you shake your cloak or your garment against them, saying, so God shake out every man from his house and from his labor that performeth not this promise. Even thus be he shaken out and empty. And all the congregation said, Amen, and praise the Lord. And the people did according to this promise. All right. Peace, Brother Anthony. It's good to see you there. One more place. Let's go to Psalms. Psalms, the 15th chapter. Because a righteous man operates in a certain way. And one of the things that he doesn't do is he's not dealing with usury in an improper way. This is Psalms 15:1. It says, Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? Then he's going to tell you, he that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness and speaketh the truth in his heart. He that backbiteth not with his tongue, nor doeth evil to his neighbor, nor taketh up a reproach against his neighbor, in whose eyes a vile person is contemned or despised. But he honoreth them that fear the Lord. He that sweareth to his own hurt and changeth not. He that putteth not out his money to usury, nor taketh reward against the innocent. He that doeth these things shall never be moved. Okay, so you don't want to deal with this usury in this inappropriate way. Okay, I'm looking at that. I'm like, what does that mean? Okay. That, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith, meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. It's all good, brother. If you've been edified through the ministry and would like to leave a donation, you can do so on our website, www.israelteach.org. 100% of the proceeds goes to the work of the ministry. What else? We have Bible study every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. This Bible study is on Zoom. You say the system is set up bad. You talking about the economic system, brother Isaiah? I don't know what these messages mean. I assume that's what you're talking about, brother Isaiah. Okay, yeah, it's set up bad, but what we need to do is try to detach ourselves from it as much as possible. It is bad, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it we make things worse because sometimes we live beyond our means. That's how you have people making 60. I know, I understand that, yeah, but see. I'm and every place is different. I understand, like, when you look at what's going on in America, though, brother, and it's similar in the Western world, but we just straight up dealing in, and yeah, I know. Here he go, trade options. I'm not talking about. On that note, we at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue. He said, I never heard that. That's because they want you to get into debt. Whole system is based on debt. Nevertheless, again, Bible study every Wednesday night. It's a course of study I do on those nights. And it's on Zoom, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Personal meeting ID number is 845-7108-8849. We also have a Bible study question and answer on Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, also on Zoom. And that is that's for anybody who wants to come and ask any question in the Bible. The personal meeting ID number is 602-961-1318. And finally, there are books that I've written that are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. Our website as well. Into Egypt Begin with Ships, The Pagan Origins of Christian Holidays, Hell Like War, Feet Like Burning Brass. For then shall be great tribulation, Killing Black Innocents, and In Defense of Biblical Polygyny. All these books are available for purchase. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you were edified.